Born in 1988, I became a child of the 90s. This was the decade that helped to cement my love for film. Whether that was watching kids' films that came out during those 10 years or absolute classics that my parents loved that were shown to me and my brother, these were the stories that I instantly connected with. So let's take a trip down nostalgia lane. I'm Kendall Richardson and these are my top 10 favorite childhood movies. Number 10, Superman. This film marked my first exposure to the superhero and comic book genre, and what better film to have that honor than this one? Released in 1978, Richard Donner's Superman, starring the icon that is Christopher Reeve, changed the face of cinema forever. There had never been such a brilliant take on a comic book hero that had truly captured everything the character stood for and was about. Christopher Reeve shone bright in his breakout performance, delivering the pratfalls of Clark Kent with ease and embodying the Boy Scout heroism of Superman. Margot Kidder made waves with her strong portrayal as hotshot reporter Lois Lane, and Gene Hackman delivered a devilish, if not slightly over-the-top performance as Lex Luthor, who would go down as one of cinema's best villains. Without the success of this film, there is a high chance we would have never gotten Tim Burton's legendary Batman, Sam Raimi's wicked Spider-Man, and Kevin Feige's expertly crafted Marvel Cinematic Universe. Number 9, Jumanji. If you were raised in the 90s, there is no doubt that you were a Robin Williams fan. He is one of my all-time favorite performers, and my life would not be the same without him. The first of 4 of his films on my list, Jumanji is a non-stop thrill ride from start to finish. Featuring the world's most deadliest, not to mention scariest board game, where the only way to survive is to keep playing. I love Robin's performance as Alan Parrish. Having spent the previous 26 years trapped inside the game, made for some hilarious fish out of water moments upon his return. With each roll of the dice and each move of the player's tokens, the different elements unleashed from the jungle became more intense and more life-threatening, making for a seriously exciting film. There's crazy monkeys, killer mosquitoes, a stampede, deadly flowers, and giant spiders, just to name a few. Jumanji is so much fun and each watch brings a huge smile to my face. Number 8, D2 The Mighty Ducks. It was a tough call between the first Mighty Ducks film and D2, but the fun times at the Junior Goodwill Games pushed the vote into D2's favour. Emilio Estevez's Gordon Bombay is forced to put his hockey career on hold after sustaining an awful leg injury, and he returns to coach the Ducks. Except they are now Team USA and have taken on an additional 5 players. After some initial growing pains, the new members soon find their place, and Team USA is on track to win big at the games with only their villainous rivals, Team Iceland, standing in their way. One of the best messages of this film is to always stay grounded and never to let fame and success go to your head. In the movie, we see the team's success affect everyone, but mostly Coach Bombay, who tries to sink to Iceland's level in order to win. Of course, predictably, he changes his tune and Team USA goes on to win gold on their terms. D2 is a hilarious and adventurous ride, with most of the original Mighty Ducks cast returning and bringing so much fun to their characters. Quack, quack, quack! Number 7, Anastasia. This is my favorite animated movie. A fairy tale version of the end of the Romanov dynasty in Russia that sees Princess Anastasia and her grandmother, the Dowager Empress Marie, survive but become separated in the chaos. Anastasia grows up as orphan Anya, unable to fully recollect her childhood. She falls into the hands of 2 conmen, Dmitri and Vladimir, who aim to pass her off as the real Anastasia in order to collect the reward her grandmother has issued for her safe return. Little do they know they actually have the real Anastasia, who the villainous Rasputin seeks to put an end to. I love everything about this movie. It is so romantic, filled with great love, fantasy, and dreams. Meg Ryan's Anastasia is a wonderful female lead. She is feisty, independent, and humble. John Cusack's Dmitri is the perfect leading man. He is charming, mischievous, and loving. But my favorite thing about this movie is the music. Oh my god, the music. In fact, its music actually received 2 Oscar nominations, one for Best Original Song and one for Best Musical or Comedy Score. The lovely haunting ballad that is Once Upon a December is one of my favorite songs of all time. It is just so beautiful. If you haven't seen this film, I urge you to watch it. Number 6, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Whilst The Raiders of the Lost Ark would actually go on to be my favorite Indiana Jones film, my childhood was filled with many repeat viewings of the 3rd film in the franchise, The Last Crusade. Indy gets caught up in the search for the Holy Grail after being told of his father's disappearance. Once father and son are reunited, they must work together to stop the Nazis from getting their hands on it. I love how we see Indy's origin with an excellent portrayal by River Phoenix that includes the birth of his snake phobia and exactly where the iconic hat came from. But my favorite thing has to be the dynamic between Sean Connery's Henry Jones Sr. and Harrison Ford's Indy, or should I say Jr. Their banter makes for some of the most hilarious and heartwarming moments of the film. And when you throw in Denholm Elliott's Marcus Brody and John Rhys Davies' Sala, you get a hilarious adventuring quartet that I really wanted to see in many more movies after this one. The quest for the Holy Grail is one that cannot be missed. Number 5, Hook. Bangarang! This modern take on the classic tale of Peter Pan is my all-time favorite. Directed by Steven Spielberg, Hook at one point almost starred the king of pop himself, Michael Jackson, in the lead role, since he was such a fan of the character and he was friends with Spielberg to boot. Alas, that never came to pass, but what did was still such a magical adventure. Robin Williams' take on Peter Banning is just one in the long list of his memorable roles. As it turns out, Peter Pan left Neverland, grew up and forgot all about it. That is, until his own children, Jack and Maggie, are kidnapped by Peter's arch-nemesis, the terrible Captain Hook, played to perfection by Dustin Hoffman. With the help of Tinkerbell, played by Julia Roberts, Peter must convince the Lost Boys, led by Bad Boy Rufio, that he is in fact the real Pan in order to rescue his children. I love how much fun it is, all of the adventure and fantasy elements, and the conflict between Peter Pan and his Lost Boys, and Captain Hook and his pirates. Number 4, Mrs. Doubtfire. When I think of Robin Williams, this is the film my mind goes to. Mrs. Doubtfire is an absolute classic and one of the greatest family films ever made. I love how it incorporates Williams' impeccable talent for voice acting, especially in the iconic I Do Voices montage. Seeing Williams' character Daniel Hillard transform himself into Mrs. Doubtfire and then being able to fool his family for what seems like months on end is just hilarious and magical. Whilst Robin steals the show, that is not without the help of an extraordinary supporting cast. Sally Field is amazing as his fierce yet loving ex-wife, and Lisa Jacob, Matthew Lawrence, and Mara Wilson in her debut knock it out of the park as the Hillard children. And of course, Pierce Brosnan does exceptional work as romantic rival Stu, bringing his trademark British charm to the role. I was lucky enough myself to have the privilege of visiting the actual house from the movie during my trip to San Francisco in 2016. It was such a memorable experience. Mrs. Doubtfire still holds up today, proving just how amazing it truly is. Number 3, Independence Day. I'd have to say that this was the film that kick-started my affection for cheesy yet awesome disaster movies. Independence Day is the ultimate popcorn flick, filled to the brim with highly quotable one-liners, intense action scenes, and at the time of its release, state-of-the-art special effects. An alien invasion movie on this scale had never been produced, with the lines between sci-fi and action blurring wonderfully. There is so much to love about it, but one thing that really makes it worth your time are the performances of its cast. Jeff Goldblum is his eccentric and charming self as genius tech wizard David Levinson. Bill Pullman exudes charisma and leadership as young President Thomas Whitmore, who also gives one of the greatest movie speeches of all time. And of course, Will Smith in the role that pushed him out of Bel Air and into the movie star stratosphere as pilot Captain Stephen Hiller. The design of the aliens and their spacecraft were also remarkable, and the creatures themselves were almost as terrifying as the xenomorphs from the Alien franchise. I have lost count of how many times I have watched Independence Day. It is one of my all-time favorite films. Number 2, A Little Princess. I have such fond memories of watching this film. It really indulged my childhood fantasies of daydreaming and magic. Based on the novel by the Secret Garden author Frances Hodgson Burnett, A Little Princess tells the story of young Sarah Crewe, who is sent away to boarding school after her father, played by a dashing Liam Cunningham, is sent to fight in World War I. However, boarding school life soon turns to tragedy as Sarah's father is presumed dead, and with all of her privilege stripped away, she is forced to work as one of the school's maids. Alongside her own story, Sarah tells the tale of Prince Rama, Princess Sita, and the evil Ravana, characters lifted out of the Indian poem, the Ramayana, and they serve as an allegory for Sarah's own story. Young actress Liesl Matthews does an exceptional job in the role of Sarah Crewe. She epitomized grace, strength, and heart, and her character is an excellent role model for young girls everywhere. This film will make you laugh, cheer, and definitely cry. It is a must-watch. Honorable mentions. So many movies and not enough time. Here are 3 honorable mentions I just couldn't pass over. Fern Gully, The Last Rainforest. With the outstanding cast and soundtrack behind it, I'm a little surprised this movie isn't talked about more often. Although it hasn't aged spectacularly well. Regardless, I have nothing but fond memories of it. Fern Gully follows our heroine, a fairy named Krista, as she learns the ways of magic in order to protect the rainforest. Sadly, humans meddle as they so often do, and they cut down tree after tree in the rainforest with a giant machine. This inadvertently releases the evil being known as Hexus, voiced malevolently by Tim Curry, and he takes control of the machine in order to destroy the fairies and their home. The voice cast also includes Samantha Mathis as Krista, Christian Slater as Pips, and the legend that is Robin Williams as Batty Coda. His voice work as the eccentric Bat was actually his first for an animated film, but coincidentally, Aladdin would be released that same year. Fern Gully almost feels like an early version of The Lion King, especially in regards to certain characters and its use of music and song. Heck, even Elton John did a song for this film. It is all just so wonderful to watch. Cool Runnings. Sanka, you dead?
Yeah, man.
Okay, who doesn't love this movie? Cool Runnings is loosely based on the true story of the first ever Jamaican bobsled team. Featuring John Candy in one of his final performances as the team's coach Irvin Blitzer, he does an awesome job of portraying the conflicted yet passionate man who would help get the team to the Winter Olympics. Of course, this doesn't happen without the ever-determined sprinter Doris Bannock, played by Leon, who will stop at nothing to become an Olympian. Joined by his best friend Sanka Coffey, played hilariously by Doug E. Doug, ironically they end up recruiting the 2 men responsible for Doris missing the Summer Games in the first place, Junior Bevel, played by Roll D. Lewis, and Yul Brenner, played by Malik Yoba. Cool Runnings is endlessly entertaining. Its jokes and one-liners will have you on the floor laughing, and its heartwarming tale of friendship and overcoming adversity is a strong message that everyone can be inspired by. Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. This was the movie that changed not only sci-fi, but film itself forever. I watched the original trilogy of Star Wars films religiously as a kid, and if I had to pick a favourite, I would have to say A New Hope would be it. Not just for its importance, but because I love the story it tells. Who would have thought that a simple farm boy from Tatooine would leave his planet and go on to become something incredibly great? Luke Skywalker is an excellent hero and someone that we can all relate to on some level. He's the kid with big dreams, hopes of becoming more, and an outsider thrust into a world in which he is trying to find his place and his destiny. And of course, I have to thank this film for introducing me to Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford. I absolutely adore their portrayals of their iconic characters, Princess Leia and Han Solo. They help to make the movie fun and keep the audience interested throughout. Star Wars is also a classic tale of good triumphing over evil and of the underdog rising up and claiming victory. I dare you to name a climax more thrilling than the X-Wing trench run on the Death Star. The entire thing is movie magic at its best. And my number one favorite childhood film is The Goonies. The ultimate kid adventure movie. Produced by Steven Spielberg and directed by Richard Donner, The Goonies is an absolutely awesome film with excellent characters, a thrilling story, and a great message. A group of friends must face the reality of losing their homes and having to move out of town. That is until they find a map leading to the lost treasure of famed pirate One-Eyed Willie and find themselves in a race for their lives with wanted criminal family the Fratellis hot on their heels. The film stars a young Sean Astin and a young Thanos, Josh Brolin, as brothers Mikey and Brandon, and 80s icon Corey Feldman as the hysterical and obnoxious mouth. All of the Goonies themselves are incredibly charming, endearing, and dorky as hell. And given their unfortunate unpopular status, they can't help but remind you of kids you went to school with, or even friends of your own. I love Mikey's fixation with One-Eyed Willie and his unwavering determination to find the treasure and save all of their homes from demolition. The Goonies is such a fun and funny adventure that I have always treasured, pun definitely intended, which is why it has to be without a doubt my favourite childhood film. There you have it, kids, those are my favourite childhood films. What did you think? Leave me a comment and let me know, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more videos just like this one. You can also find me on SoundCloud and iTunes as one of the hosts of a podcast called Fred and The Monthly at Winifred's. I've been Kendall Richardson and you've just experienced Collector Chaos.